Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Jeff, and today we're going to dive into some new spoilers with Strixhaven School of Mages. And actually, we don't have any official Strixhaven cards here today. Instead, we're going to be diving into the Mystical Archive on MTG Arena, which I misrepresented last time. I was thinking that this was something that wasn't going to be actually available on Arena, and that's not true. It's not available in Standard, even though they will be opened up in the Strixhaven packs. This is what they look like. They are, you can get the cosmetic side of it, which will have like Japanese art if you guys want to. But ultimately, these are just some cool looking cards. And I think they'll just be like an alternative version of the card instead of a cosmetic. So you have to actually get a full play set of them before you can, use that instead of the other card that you have if they are reprints. But these will be opened up in the booster packs. In your normal booster packs, if you get Strixhaven ones, one of the common card slots will be filled instead with one of these mystical archive cards, and so that's going to be really cool. It's a good way for people that are trying to get cards for Standard to actually get cards for some Historic as well, because I know a lot of people's biggest issue with Historic is I don't want to invest a bunch into Historic, good cards there when I'm trying to, the Standard is where it's at. It's easier to do that and everything like that. And so maybe this is a way to kind of build a little bit more of a Historic card base without actually having to spend a ton in getting all your Historic stuff. So this also in limited and draft, the 15 card packs will also have a slot for the Mystical Archive cards as well. I don't believe they'll be able to be legal in the limited format. I'm not sure how that works, but I don't believe that's how it works anyway. And then there are a couple other cosmetic type cards that are in paper that are not going to be on Arena. Just the card arts that have different languages, of course you won't be able to get. It's only going to be the alternative art styles with the Japanese look, but with English. All right, so that's it. Let's dive into actually a couple other cards here too that are banned, even though they are being printed in this. I'm not sure if we'll get them available to us on MTG Arena. They're mentioning this within it. I'm not sure if they're just immediately banned, but they're going to have them be available, so then maybe they can unban them. I'm not sure. But these are the cards here that are banned: Counterspell, Dark Ritual, Channel, Demonic Tuner, Lightning Bolt, and Swords of Plowshares. Of course, we can't have good white removal, so even though they did a whole thing talking about how they're going to give us good white removal, no, I can't have it. And so these ones are banned, which of course these are all really good cards, so totally understandable why they're banned. All right, so now we'll move on to some of the reprints really quick, just to kind of show you guys the cool art that we are getting. So with these cards, if you draw into them, I believe just like how there are multiple different cards, versions of Cultivate, different versions of whatever there is out there, instead of getting a cosmetic for it, what is it, the Sorcerer's Spyglass has two different versions of it where you can get, and you can just use the different versions that you ended up getting. I like that they're trying to push a little bit more towards cosmetics more often, because it's a real feel bad thing. I'm not sure how these are going to work. I don't think that you can just, like, if you have one, you can turn all of yours into that cosmetic. I think that what it is, you have to get all four before you can be playing all four slots as this version of the card. But they do look really awesome. They're really cool. I really like the art on most of these cards. Some of the cards are pretty interesting. So this is like the Japanese style that we won't be able to have that version. It will be that's an eliminate there, so it'll actually have the eliminate text. Yeah, all these look really awesome. I'm really excited for it. All right, so that's all that stuff. Let's actually dive into the spoilers. Super excited for this. So those are all the reprinted cards that are already available in Historic, in Standard. These are new cards that are coming with this slot that are super exciting, like Teferi's Protection, which is one of the most busted cards in Commander. I don't think it's seen in any play at all in Constructed, maybe in Legacy. I'm not sure how that actually works, because it was printed in a Commander deck. 3 mana until instant speed until your next turn. Your life total cannot be changed. You gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out, and then you exile Teferi's Protection. So why is this actually useful in Constructed? The main thing is that mono white actually has a lot of ways to give indestructible to the board or that kind of stuff, and so you could just run those kinds of protection cards. But Teferi's Protection not only protects you from all the board wipes, all that kind of stuff, but also protects from exile. So if they were going to do an Extinction Event or Shadow's Verdict, those different cards that have been getting a little bit more popularity, I'm not so sure they're getting the same popularity in Historic, but you can at least dodge an extinction events, which is really big, or dodge, give everything neg 3 or that kind of stuff. And so this does give protection to a lot of important things. So if you're trying to build a big board and still are able to hold up mana, this might be the best turn 3 protection card for you. I'm not sure if you'll fit in that slot, but it's really good. All right. We also got one of the weirdest arts ever of Faithless Looting, which is a super exciting card. 1 mana, sorcery, you draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and then it can flashback for 3 mana. This is busted. So flashback, you can cast this card from your graveyard for the flashback cost and exile. It's kind of like Jumpstart, but you just pay extra mana basically instead of discarding a card to play it. Yeah, draw 2 cards. I think we already had some flashback stuff, so you guys know about it. All right. I try to give all this for people that are playing in Arena. So stuff that's a little bit newer outside of Arena or like standard historic. A lot of people don't play as much modern or that kind of stuff. A lot of people's first introduction to Magic is in MTG Arena. So trying to make sure I cover all the bases here. But anyway, this card is really good because you can draw 2 cards. You can dig for the things that you need to throw into your graveyard, or you can dig for things you need to have in your hand as well. So you do get to dig through and find lots of cards with this by drawing 2 cards for 1 mana. So this is a really cheap way to be looking for stuff. But the main reason that you play this card is because you want to fill the graveyard with the things that you need there, like Phoenix, anything you want to reanimate. You can throw in your Unburial Rights as well, which can then be a little bit cheaper to reanimate something as well. So Faithless Looting is just a really good combo card for when you're trying to dig through and find the things that you need. Lightning Helix also comes in, which is really busted. I'm going through these pretty quick because we have so many cards to talk about with this one. So I am going to go pretty quick through all of these. Lightning Helix completely will change the format. Not completely. There's already been a really good burn deck that has been around and seen a decent amount of play, but wasn't quite consistent enough yet. I'm not sure if them having to add white will make it more or less consistent, but Lightning Helix is a really good card. It's really powerful. 2 mana instant speed, deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. I definitely am going to be doing a Firesong and Sunspeaker deck with this because come on, that sounds fun. We're going to do it. But it's just a really powerful card typically in a burn deck, and I think burn has been so close to being there already. And I think that Strixhaven is bringing a few extra things that will probably be cool with Magecraft, whatever else, and just mono red, aggro in general. I think this is going to be really, really busted here in the next set or in Historic coming up soon. Brainstorm. 1 mana instant, draw 3 cards and put 2 cards from your hand into on 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. So you draw 3 cards, which is really powerful. This is 1 mana, draw 3 cards for all the Teferi's tutelage type effects, all the things that are trying to mill cards. This can be really busted. This is just a really busted card in general. It's instant speed. You get to get rid of cards that you don't like in your hand, put them on top of your library, maybe shuffle with a Fable Passage afterwards, shuffle your library so you don't have those cards coming back to you anymore. This is just really good for setting everything up. There's not a ton of ways to shuffle your library in the format right now. I think that's one of the main reasons this may not see as much play, but there's still plenty. There's still lots of value. This is definitely going to see play. It just depends on which decks. We also got Mana Tithe, which is a super fun card. So it's a counter spell in white. 1 mana, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. This is just a really fun gotcha card to put into a white deck where people don't expect counter spells in a white deck, so you don't play this if you're playing blue, you don't play this, all that kind of stuff. But this is a great card to just kind of have a gotcha when people aren't paying attention to it. You can just have an answer of a counter spell in white by forcing them to pay 1 mana. Of course, it doesn't work as well in the late game typically, but sometimes you can get the ultimatum, you can get whatever big spell they're trying to cast. And so Mana Tithe is a fun card to go with as well. So I love the art on that as well, by the way. All the art on all of these, most of them are really cool. Faithless Looting, a little bit interesting, but most of these are really cool. Inquisition of Kozilek, also awesome. 1 mana sorcery. This is the not better Thoughtseize, a really good version of Thoughtseize. Basically, it's as good. 1 mana, target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it with mana value 3 or less. That player discards a card. So you can't discard the really expensive stuff, but in the early game, you can get rid of anything important. Potentially modal lands that might come into play as well, and just any non-land card, and you don't have to pay the 2 life that you would with Thoughtseize, which can sometimes come into play. This can go hit this, make sure that they discard most counter spells as well, so you can still force discard to make sure your stuff resolves. Really good card. All right, Weather the Storm. We get to see Storm for the first time. For some people, 2 mana, instant speed, you gain 3 life, and then you have Storm. So whenever you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. So that counts for opponent casting spells, you casting spells, and this card is really good because you can play it instant speed. So you can, if opponent has played out like 3 cards in a row, or 3 or 4, you can cast this for 2 mana and gain, you know, this would be the fourth thing, so it would gain you extra copies. You'd be gaining like, you know, 9, 12 life or whatever, and so really cool. You copy it for each spell that was cast before it this turn, so it doesn't count for itself. But if they had cast 3 cards, you would be able to cast this out, and you would still gain the 3 life from itself, and then create 3 copies and gain 12 life. So that can be a lot of life gain. You can, of course, create the storm yourself and gain tons and tons of life with this. A lot of different instances of gaining life, which of course there's ways to combo off and do stuff with it as well. So I like this card. Excited to see how we can break it in the format. Excuse me. Blue Sun's Zenith. Basically, Gadwick, target player draws X cards and then you shuffle into its owner's library, but you can do it at instant speed. So 3 mana X, you can pay X to draw as many cards as you want. Really busted. Having it at instant speed is definitely better than Gadwick. Although Gadwick has its upsides as well, this is definitely going to see play. It's really good. If you want card draw, there's some good card draw. Tendrils of Agony, another storm card, 4 mana sorcery, target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So instead of just yourself gaining life, which is 2 mana, which is cheaper, this of course being at sorcery speed means that you have to combo off kind of on your own. But if the storm count gets really big, you can gain a lot of life and you can force your opponent to lose a lot of life. I'm really excited to see how Magecraft plays in with all these, with Strixhaven coming out as well. Like the Liliana with this card seems really cool to build around. At the same time, you have to have lots of ramp to be able to play enough spells that would make this 4 mana spell seem worthwhile. But I think that's totally possible. So I think even if you get, I think this card becomes worthwhile if you get to make 2 extra copies of it. Then at 4 mana, dealing 6 to them, gaining 6 life is a massive swing. So even if you're only playing a bunch of like 1-drop spells, Inquisition of Kozilek, all the different things, and then maybe have like Liliana, the new Liliana out there to have Magecraft, so you're dealing 2 damage and gaining 2 life every single time, and then this comes out as well, you could end up having a lot of damage, especially because Magecraft counts the copies that you're making as well as part of Magecraft. So Inquisition, Thoughtseize, Tendrils of Agony already have the Lily out on the battlefield. That is basically 20 points of damage right there. Like, so I'm not doing the math, but it's pretty dang close. So anyway, there's some really best stuff you can do with Tendrils of Agony. I think that'll be really cool. Tainted Pact, 2 mana instant, exile the top card of your library. You may put that card into your hand unless it has the same name as another card exiled this way. Repeat this process until you put a card into your hand or you exile 2 cards with the same name, whichever comes first. So if you're playing a deck that normally has 4 of each, occasionally has 4 of each of the different kinds of cards, then Tainted Pact, you'll play it and eventually you'll find 2 cards that have the same name. I believe this counts for basic lands as well. I'm not totally sure if those count as having having names. I believe so. And so you could use a different kind of combo with this, with Treasure Hunt and Thassa's Oracle. Basically, maybe have just 2 copies of Thassa's Oracle. Cast this, exile until you find the 2 names of Thassa's Oracle, and hopefully you have not as many cards left. But if you have Treasure Hunt, you could play it again. Only have like 2 copies of Tainted Pact, 2 copies or 1 copy of Treasure Hunt, and 2 copies of Thassa's Oracle. Shuffle until you find a Tainted Pact. You play it. You go and find the 2 Thassa's Oracle come to your hand. You would also hopefully have hit the Treasure Hunt before you find 2 Thassa's Oracles, and then you can cast the Treasure Hunt to get rid of all the rest of the lands that you would have in your deck, because you build it all with lands except for these cards, and then cast Thassa's Oracle and win the game. So you could technically win on, I think, turn 4 with that combo, and it would be fairly consistent, except for, of course, having to find the Tainted Pact, which you could put 2 copies into, because casting the first one will only find you 1 extra copy of the Tainted Pact that wouldn't stop the combo. although it makes treasure hunt a little bit worse. And so I'm not sure exactly where this deck falls into that deck. And I'm not sure if you can run as many basic lands as you would normally because of the issue. But of course you can run cycle cards, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not really sure. You don't even run treasure hunt and you run a bunch of cycling cards instead and just the 2 Thassa's Oracles. And then you hope Thassa's Oracle, the second one, is at the bottom. I don't know. It seems like an interesting card. I'm not sure. Crux of Fate, 5 mana, sorcery, choose one, destroy all dragon creatures or destroy all non-dragon creatures. So this is basically a really good a one-sided board wipe for a dragons deck. That's really, I think, what you use it for. There's enough other board wipes right now that I'm not sure if you need this. At the same time, though, I'm not sure if black has a good just destroy all. There's a bunch of other, like, give negative X to stuff, or exile converting mana cost, do that kind of stuff, where I would not like, or even ritual set, which destroys converting mana cost less. I'm not sure if mono black does have just a straight up destroy all creatures. And so Crux of Fate becomes a really good version of that for mono black. So you can definitely play it in just control decks. And if you're also playing like Rakdos Dragons or whatever else, you can be doing a lot of fun stuff with this as a one-sided board wipe. So super excited for that card. Doomblade, great removal spell, 2 mana, instant destroy target non-black creature. It's good. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. It's been around for forever. It's really good. I'm not sure if it's better than some of the other removal now, but historically it's been really, really good. But historically it's been played more in sideboards or in decks that have the ability to sideboard out. And I'm not sure if in the format or whatever, I would be willing to do that. Unless you're playing best of 3, then Doomblade comes into the sideboards more often. Electrolyze, 3 mana. Instant, it deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. So 1 damage to 2 different targets, or 2 damage to 1 target, and go at face. And then you get to draw a card. This works really well with Gutter Snipe. It's a good card. It lets you draw cards. 3 mana, maybe a little bit expensive for it, but if you're playing stuff like this, you're probably going to have ways to make it a little bit cheaper. I think this could be good with Magecraft as well. Something really good to make copies of if you have ways to do it, just to be able to kind of divide damage, maybe just throw it all at face, but being able to draw cards and kind of keep filtering through, it can be really nice. Ephemerate, 1 mana, instant, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So really good effect for any ETB effect type of things, with Panharmonicon, with Yarok, in any creature that you want to have enter the battlefield again and have another ETB effect is awesome. Or protection from removal is really nice. Then of course you can rebound with this. If you cast the spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves, exile the ephemerate, and at the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card, the ephemerate, from exile without paying its mana cost. So you get to do it twice. On the upkeep, it's a may ability, right? So yeah, you may bounce something again and have it ETB again, which is hopefully what you're wanting to do. Of course, that means it won't be able to attack in if it's a creature, because it'll have summoning sick again by exiting and coming back in. But if you're just going for the ETB effects, that's just fine. So Gift of Estates, 2 mana, sorcery. If an opponent controls more lands than you, search your library for up to 3 plain cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle. So just a great way to kind of redraw lands, especially if you're on the draw with this. Opponent has 3 lands. You have 2 lands. Cast this on turn 3, and get 3 lands to hand, which is really nice. So it definitely can be good. I think this is more of, I'm not sure exactly where this card comes in to play. If it's something that I would actually play in a deck, like, it can be good at card advantage. I think it's more in like a brawl deck that you would play this, because otherwise you just don't do anything, right? So it doesn't have an adverse effect. It's only if opponents control more lands than you, then you get to do this effect. But if they don't, if you have more lands than they do somehow, then you're just out of luck and it's a completely dead card. So not sure if I love it, but it's cool, I guess. Maybe there's a way to like copy this card, actually, because there's a lot of different copy effects that are going around. Maybe you can copy this and just draw like all of your planes, just like hope that they play more lands than you at some point, play a gift of the Estates, copy it somehow, and then just have like all of your lands into your hand that we were only drawing good cards. I don't know, maybe there's a cool way to do something like that. Grape Shot, 2 mana, deals 1 damage to any target with Storm. And this card is just historically, this is the finisher for the Storm deck in Modern. So in that format, it's really, really great. It just does 1 damage to any target. But if you can cast 20 spells before this, then you can deal 20 points of damage to the opponent's face, or however many you need. Typically though, you need lots of card draw spells and lots of ritual effects that create extra mana just by casting spells. So you can cast a ton of spells and draw through. We don't have as many ritual spells in this. Like the only one that would there's I think a couple that we have, but not nearly enough ritual spells that actually would work with this. Ironcrag Feat doesn't work because you can only cast one spell after it. That doesn't work well as Storm. But there's some pretty fun, cool things that you can do with Storm in general. I'm sure someone's going to find a way to break this card. I'm just not sure how yet, because I'm not looking at all the cards, haven't done it yet. Harmonize 4 mana sorcery, draw 3 cards in green, which is awesome, which means that there's just a good way to draw cards. I'm not sure if this comes into constructed. It's a little bit too expensive, and there's a lot of other, like, I feel like Toski would be better to be building around, or like other cards like that, where they do draw you cards. Green actually has a decent amount of card draw. As long as you build around it. Harmonize can draw lots of cards and it's really good, and it would be a really cool card to copy lots of times, that kind of stuff as well. But I think this is mostly just a brawl card now for Historic Brawl, which is obviously going to become a format hopefully soon, official format. 3 mana Crozen Grip, instant speed with split second, which means that as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So it resolves before there's any chance to respond. So 3 mana instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So pretty nice. This is the first split second card I think that we've had so far, so that's pretty exciting to see that. So cool. And honestly, I don't think I've ever actually officially read the text for Split Second. I've just seen people play Split Second cards, and I don't think I've ever seen the actual like description of it on there. So this is the first time for me actually reading the full text. I just have always been told how it works. All right, Increasing Vengeance, 2 mana, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, copy that spell twice instead. You may choose new targets for the copy. So you have the flashback for 5 mana, so that means that you can cast this spell from the graveyard and make 2 different copies. I think that this card becomes like I think the idea of this is supposed to be for burn, that you can pay 2 mana to copy a lightning bolt or shock or something like that to deal some damage, and then in the late game you have an ability to if you find one burn spell, you can deal like 9 points of damage by having all the mana that you need. I don't see that ever becoming a situation that you want to find yourself in anyway. It would be cool to do, but it would be really, really difficult. So I'm not sure if that's the way you want to go. Memory Lapse, 2 mana instant, counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, put it on top of its owner's library instead of into that player's graveyard. So instead of countering it, thrown into the graveyard, you put it on top of the library, which in some ways can be even better. If it's a card that they were like casting to try to dodge a counter spell or something like that, sometimes you just like, okay, counter that, throw it on top of the library. Now you have to draw that dead card again. So you almost take up 2 turns. So they cast the spell, and they have to redraw it as well, and instead of finding something new or better. And so Memory Lapse can be a really, really powerful, really good card. I think it is definitely situational. I don't know. I haven't played with it as much. I don't play blue and counter spells as much because I'm a good, decent human being. But sometimes I do it for you guys, so we might have to build around that. We'll see. Anyway, Mind's Desire, 6 mana sorcery. Shuffle your library, then exile the top card of your library. Until the end of turn, you may play that card without playing its mana cost. So you do have to shuffle and then use the ability, which is really cool, but it could just be a land, and you can play the card without paying its mana cost. So sweet, 6 mana to get a land off the top of the library. That's really worthwhile. No, but you can storm. So 6 mana is really hard to storm with, like we were talking about before. But if you can get a bunch of different copies of the storm card, you could potentially just win the game on the spot with this card. You have to have lots of mana, which there are ways to get lots of mana. I think there's the Emery, Emery, Mindstone, the Paradox Engine that keeps on tapping all the lands every time you cast spells off the top. This could be a really good finisher for that because it makes basically infinite mana. You just cast as many spells as you can until you run dead, play Mind's Desire, be able to cast all those spells as well. Find the Aetherworks Reservoir. So I think there's that deck already is running blue for Emery, and I think it would work really well to run this card as well in there. So I think that would actually be a pretty awesome deck already to play this card. I'm not sure where else. I'm sure that can be busted in many other ways, where as long as you can get multiple copies of this, you are going to be finding things off the top of your deck that you get to cast for free, and that can be pretty flippin' awesome stuff. All right, Mizzix Mastery. 4 mana, exile target card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So basically like a reanimate card for an instant or sorcery in the graveyard. So if you can fill the graveyard with something really awesome, instant or sorcery, then you get to copy it and cast it for pretty, and be awesome. That's cool stuff. Or you get to overload this for 8 mana, and you can, and it says instead that you may cast a spell for its overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target with each. So instead of it saying exile target card, you would say exile each card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. And then for each card exile this way, you get to cast it without paying its mana cost. So if you fill your graveyard with tons and tons of instants and sorceries, then get to 8 mana, cast this, which we have Ironcrag Feet. We can get you up to 8 mana fairly quickly. So you can actually do some pretty fun stuff. If you have ways with Faithless Looting to discard a bunch of really powerful, awesome cards, cast the overload costs after an Ironcrag Feat, and maybe that's a good way to storm, because you do actually get to cast everything, and so then it'll create copies. So that actually might be the best way to storm off, is throw everything into the graveyard with Faithless Lootings, get to an Ironcrag Feat and a Mizzix Mastery, cast a Mizzix Mastery, that'll already be with Ironcrag Feat and Mizzix Mastery, 2 cards that are on the stack, and then exile each different thing. Hopefully you have a bunch of different storm things in there. You can maybe Grape Shot, and each new thing that you cast will count as 1, which they'll each copy and make extras for all that stuff. So you can end up doing some pretty busted fun stuff, I think, with this. Not exactly sure what you end up doing, but it could be busted, could be fun. I'm gonna do it. All right, so Natural Order, also another busted card. 4 mana sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a green creature, search your library for a green creature card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle. So this is the best way to find Crater Hoof, basically. So elves are going to be busted with this. This is better than them running. There's a 3 mana card or something like that they're playing already to go tutor up Crater Hoof and then hope that they have the mana to do it. Instead, just get to 4 mana, sacrifice your Llanowar Elves, whatever you don't need anymore. Put the Crater Hoof onto the battlefield, and you win the game immediately. It's just way better than what they've been playing, so you don't have to run as many Crater Hoofs if you don't want to. Of course, the downside here is that it can be countered, and you've already as an additional cost sacrifice the green creature. But elves also right now are getting so many tokens that it doesn't matter. Like, I think they'd be fine losing one of their tokens to have this countered. So anyway, Natural Order gonna change the format a bunch. I'm really terrified. Man, we have so many cards to get through. Putrefy. Here's one we don't have to talk about as much. Instant, destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. This is nice because it destroys artifacts and creatures. Regenerated, I don't think matters at all in the format right now. So if you are worried about making sure your deck has some artifact removal, this is a way to do it. Pretty sweet stuff. All right. Primal Command, 5 mana sorcery, choose 2. Target player gains 7 life. Put target non-creature permanent. So that one of these options, put target non-creature permanent on top of its owner's library. So not a creature, but you can put a planeswalker of the opponent's or something of yours, a land on top of their library. And that's kind of a cool thing here, is it can kind of be land destruction by putting the lands on top of their library. And then target player shuffles their graveyard into their library, so you can get graveyard hate as well there, or search your library for creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So I think this card actually does have a chance to be pretty dang good. There's a few different things to go with it. So these actually next couple cards kind of go with this. Regrowth. Let's actually talk about Stone Rain first. So with Stone Rain, we have destroy target land. I think Primal Command and Stone Rain make us actually have a pretty good land destruction deck. We also have Waking the Trolls and things that come out. So I'm not sure, but there might be an actual Gruul land destruction deck now available that could compete in Historic. I'm not sure, but Stone Rain giving us a 3 mana way to destroy lands is really big. It's only 1 3 mana way to destroy lands, so if we don't find it, it could be bad, but that could be interesting. Regrowth is also pretty good. So this one, Regrowth is, sorry, I was thinking about Regrowth for something else. Regrowth is also pretty cool because it's a way to storm off. So this works out with Storm, where you can, so for 2 mana, return target target card from your graveyard to your hand. This just says target card instead of target permanent, target creature. It's one of the few cards that just says any card can come back to your hand. So if you need a land, you can go grab it from the graveyard and put it into your hand. So pretty sweet stuff there, where you can 2 copies of Regrowth lets you recast Regrowth over and over and over again, where you can go find the other Regrowth, bring it back. And if you have a way to make your spells a little bit cheaper, you can cast it over and over again for 1 mana, and then you can storm off with this. And so this is a good way to kind of create a storm combo. This is one of the few ways to kind of make that happen. And only needing to find 2 is pretty nice. Just cast 1 in the early game, get something back like a land that you needed to get your mana up, and then find the other Regrowth at some point, go off with the combo, and kind of go along there. It also kind of works with natural order, where you can also go find Nyxbloom to help you find a bunch of mana with Nyxbloom, potentially to then be able to combo off with combos like that. So those are kind of the things I was thinking of. Like Craterhoof is the obvious one that everyone's going to go for. I think you can also find Nyxbloom Ancient, which can give you triple the mana for everything you're tapping with. You could also maybe find like Yarok with this. Anyway, there's some exciting cards, exciting decks that I'm wanting to build with this. All right, sorry, getting into all of the actual like deck building ideas instead of just going through it. Sign in Blood, 2 mana sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. This is pretty nice because it's only 2 mana to draw yourself 2 cards. In black, a lot of times it's like Village Rites or things like that draw you 2 cards. This is nice just because you just get to do it. You don't have to have creatures. You don't have to have things stopping you. Just, yeah, you have to have the 2 life, to be able to sacrifice. But you're going to do that in black anyway. 2 mana, draw 2 cards. It's just a nice additional thing to have in the format. I think that will actually make a lot of decks a lot better. I think that even like mono black aggro decks will probably want this over Village Rites at times, because if you're playing the aggro deck, you may not want to sacrifice as many creatures, but you still want to be filling your hand up. Sometimes I would be rather playing this over Village Rites, maybe both, I don't know. Abundant Harvest, 1 mana sorcery, choose land or non-land, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So choose land or non-land, search your library until you find either a land or a non-land, whichever one you chose. And that's good. So if you need to find another land, this lets you keep a pretty bad hand. Or like if you only have like 1 or 2, lands in hand, Abundant Harvest, go find another land. Sweet, we did it. If you at the late game, if you've already have a bunch of lands, then you can go make sure that you find something else. So this is a pretty good card. It's an okay thing to be top decking. It just fixes decks, I think, a little bit better to make sure that it's doing well. It might work well for like storming off if you're trying to cast lots of sorceries, get other stuff into the graveyard. This might just be able to keep you going through and make sure you're not just drawing cards into dead cards, but actually drawing into good cards. And so I think this actually could be really relevant in decks that are trying to storm off. It looks like there is already kind of a storm deck for green, and maybe it's like a teamer or something, or I don't even know, but it could be cool. I'm excited. The nice thing about green is it also lets you ramp, which is where I think storm needs to be anyway right now. So I think this deck does come into storm just because it's good. Anyway, Day of Judgment, 4 mana, draw all creatures. Or sorry, destroy all creatures. Draw all of the creatures. I can spoke, right? All right, Dave. This is kind of weird because we already have Wrath of God, and so we just needed another version. I don't know why they printed this one. And this, I guess they weren't caring about historic necessarily. They were printing this for for paper, and this just happens to also be in historic. So now we are going to play a deck that has all of the board wipes, just nothing but board wipes, just to make people really, really angry. And honestly, that might be really fun. So we're going to try that out because we have it, so might as well. Tezzeret's Gambit, 3 mana and Phyrexian blue. So that means it can be paid for 2 life instead of playing blue. That means you don't have to be in blue to actually play this card. You can just pay 3 colorless mana and 2 life and play this card, and it draws 2 cards and then proliferates. And so we get another proliferate card, which is pretty sweet, and it can go into any color, which that is actually something we haven't really had. It's just an any color proliferate card. So I do think this can see play. I'm not sure exactly where, but we can proliferate, which is really cool stuff. and draw cards. Urza's Rage, I think this is the last one, guys. We're getting there. All right, 3 mana instant. This spell can't be countered, and then it either deals 3 damage to any target or deals 10 damage to that target if you kick it for an extra 9 mana. So much mana. But if you want to do it, you can do 10 points of damage. I think there's other versions that are cheaper right now. At the same time, though, this is instant speed, and I think the other versions were sorcery speed. So I don't know. I think this can be cool. I think that Banefire might be better, but you still at least have a can't be countered removal spell for 3 mana. I don't know. This might be better than others. I don't actually know where Urza's Rage fits in, but it seems legit, I guess. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the Mystical Archive spoilers, and we did get like 5 common cards that were in Strixhaven as well. I decided not to show them in this one because I already knew it was going to be longer, and we're going to be throwing those into the end of the next time we actually get some actual Strixhaven cards. I'm not sure if this is all of the cards that come out. They said at the beginning that there was some cards that hadn't been spoiled yet that will also be banned, and so I'm not sure if that means there's going to be quite a few other cards that are coming that are going to be shown at this. If there are, I will showcase them to you guys because I'm excited for the historic format being more awesome and exciting, and that's what I always like. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe so that you can see more of this kind of content in the future and know when it's coming out, especially with the spoilers and news type stuff. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.